Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Minnesota Sports Pulse. I am Josiah Eccles. With me, as always, my wonderful co-host John Burgart. How are we doing today?
Yeah, today's an exciting episode. We're going to talk about, okay, Josiah and I already did our predictions for the Vikings, but we're going to predict all the divisions today. And I can tell you that I did a lot of studying and reviewing, and I'm not deviating from what we talked about in the first video. I'm making sure that I'm not going to be a hypocrite, here and be the one who's like, oh, we're switching up. Not doing that. Okay.
Yep.
Not doing that.
That's right. We're going through each division. We're going to predict the order of finish in each division. We're going to keep track. And then at the end of the year, we're going to find out just how little ball knowledge we actually have.
I think Josiah just wants to make fun of me because I'm sure his predictions are going to be much better than mine. So he's going to be like, "Ha
What?
ha, yeah,
I
I had
never I never take pleasure in being right when you're wrong. What are you talking about?
that." May or may not be completely false, but I know he's going to love pointing fingers at me.
Ugh. All right. Well, we shall see. It's a long season. A lot can happen. It's anybody's guess, but we're going to give it our best shot. And we will start with the division we know the best. So we will probably get the most completely wrong. We'll start with the NFC North. So um, we're just going to
Tell
go
me who you
through.
got.
We're going to go through and we're going to list. So do you want to go just list ours in order, or do you want to each do our four, each do our three, each do
I
our two?
want you to list yours off here because I know
Already
that
know.
you
You
and I
probably
are
already
gonna
know.
no, you and I are gonna have differences, and this is gonna be a fun conversation.
We've talked
So
about this a lot
yes,
already. So
exactly. We already know
okay,
where this is going.
all right, we're gonna go 4-1, and I think you're gonna like my number four, John. You're gonna love my number four.
Of course.
And at number four is, of course, the Green Bay Packers.
I don't have them at number 4, but I love that pick out of you.
I know. I'm pretty sure I know who your four is going to be. So four, I have the Green Bay Packers. Three, I have the Detroit Lions. Two, I have the best, the fearless, the intrepid Minnesota Vikings. And at number one, because I do believe in what Ben Johnson is building, I'm jealous of him being their head coach. I have the Chicago Bears.
And I predicted that, and I know you're going to predict mine. So number
Mm-hmm.
4, we're going with the Bears because I said this in the
Oh, we're
previous
already
video. They're
so
going from
different.
first to worst. Third, I have Green Bay. Second, the Vikings, and first, the Lions. Now I did tie, like it was Minnesota and Green Bay with a tie. And I don't know what the actual first tiebreaker is. But we beat Green Bay week 1. I know that right off the bat. They beat us later on in the season, so I don't like the head to head. It's 1-1. Division is 3-3 the way I have them out. And we also have the same number of wins against NFC teams. So I don't know where we're going to go with this, but I'm going to choose Minnesota over Green Bay because, of course, I have to no matter what. So tell me why you think that the Chicago Bears are going to be number one.
So, we've discussed this on numerous videos and off camera as well, but I think that the Bears were actually a little bit ahead of schedule last year. And I know one of the main arguments, which the Vikings were victim to this as well, is turnover margin. 2 years ago, the Vikings had a fantastic turnover margin. Last year, it was pretty bad. The
Yes.
Bears had a fantastic turnover margin up until I think they had it through the entire year. They might have lost it at the very end of the year, but they had one of the best turnover margins in the NFL. So there's some going to be some regression there, but I think that's going to be counterbalanced by year two of Ben Johnson. He has publicly stated that they're going to have their goal is to be one of the best, if not the best offense in the NFL. And they spent a lot of draft capital on some good defensive players. They're going to continue to build defense. I believe in Ben Johnson. I think the regression from the Lions, which I have down at third, is in large part due to Ben Johnson
Mhm.
leaving. So
100% agree.
I
And
yeah.
and and I think that and it's tough because I love Dan Campbell. He's a very energetic dude. He's my kind of guy. Like that's the kind of guy that you root for. But again, I do think that he rode his coordinators to stardom as to where he was at, and he was given a lot more credit than maybe he was due for him. I don't want to take a lot away from him because I like the guy, but again, as soon as they left, what happened? Right?
Mhm.
The wheels kind of
Exactly.
started to fall off. So I 100% agree with you there. I do think that the turnover margin now it depends on how much it sways and how much it goes because that's part of that's being in the right place at the right time. Part of that's just luck, right? I
Mhm.
mean, that's just kind of how it goes. So if they end up continuing to have a little bit more luck and the turnover margin really isn't that bad, but just goes back down to normal, I think that you could be right where they're going to be, fighting for the division that they'll be up there. If it comes to the way that it did with Minnesota the year following, where I mean it was just terrible with the turnover margin, like, and there was nothing that could go our way. Even when we got one, it was called back by penalty, this and that, numerous
Mhm.
times. Like if that happens, I think that it goes the opposite, and I do think Chicago goes down to fourth. Now, one thing that we talked about a little bit last in the podcast, but the other episode was that Chicago went from a first or a fourth place record for schedule to a first. And if you look at their schedule, at least compared to last year, is pretty darn difficult. Now, we don't know exactly how all these teams are going to come out, right? Because, again, we see teams that go from first to middle of the pack and contenders down low and non contenders to playoff teams. Like every single year, it changes. So we don't know, but just judging and based off of what we do know at this time, I think Chicago is going to struggle. And I think that there's going to be a lot of close games, but they're going to be playing a lot of tough teams. And I think that they're going to be on the short end of most of those. I still have them having a very, good record at 8-9, 9-8, depending on if they can get one in there. But I could, again, very easily see them winning a couple of those games and getting up to a 10-7, maybe 11-6. I don't see anything higher than 11-6 though, and that's why I have them as last. And we're also in the toughest division that there is within the NFL. And I'm saying that, because knowing that the Rams and Niners and Seahawks are all in the same
The
division.
NF
So
the NFC West and honestly the AFC West probably both have a little bit of a gripe to pick with that one,
they're
but
very solid as well. Yeah.
that's not what we're here to debate. The Lions are an interesting one as well. I think we're just, I mean, and we've talked about this in other
Mhm.
episodes. Make sure you check those out. Um, we're pretty much flipped on where we feel the Lions and Bears are going to do this year. I put a lot into, yes, I think the Lions regressed without their coordinators. The coordinators they've tried have not been successful so far. Jared Goff and the offensive line is a year older. They're very reliant on now Jameer Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. If either one of them go down, their offense is they just have a lot hinging on a few key players.
Yep. I agree.
I think their window closed. Um, no, they're
And I'm
still a
more than
tough.
happy with that.
They're
More than
still
happy.
they're still a tough team. Like I'm gonna be nervous every time we play them. But I think that they're gonna be a good team. Again, you said this is a tough division. They're gonna be a good team. I have them 9-8 as well, but it's a tough division. And I believe in I think the Bears have the best head coach in the division. Sorry, but I think I'd rather have Ben Johnson as my coach than Kevin O'Connell.
And I think part of my reasoning for having the Lions go back up to first is the same thing with Chicago, where I said they're playing a fourth strength schedule and now they're playing a first. Well, it's the opposite for Detroit, right? Detroit went from first and now they're last because the Vikings beat them on the tiebreaker. And so they are the fourth place team in the division. And I mean, that does a lot, right? That is a lot different when it comes to that. So for me, that was part of the sway there too. And I do think that they're going to right the ship, but you're right. They're hinging on a couple key players, and Sam Laporta's already got an injury. He's got a hamstring or groin, I believe, and they don't know when he's coming back. So he might not even be ready for the season. And if one more player gets hurt, I think that could be very detrimental to them. And I don't even know who their backup quarterback is right now. Who
Not sure who's going to play cornerback for the Lions because did their cornerback get arrested and now maybe might sign with Seattle or
I
I
think
don't
I,
know.
I think he did sign with Seattle actually, um, but yeah. So I don't know. It's a toss up. I mean, I'll be honest. If anybody comes on the show or anything and just says, "Hey, any one of these teams could be first and any one of these teams could be last," I don't think I can argue that statement.
Oh no, I think
I
it's a very accurate statement. It's
That's what I mean. I
exact.
don't think I can argue that. So, like, this is what I like is that you and I knew this was going to be the biggest difference between us, and we're going to have different ones as we go through the rest of the divisions here. Um, God, it's something. I think Detroit's just going to bounce back a little bit. I think they had some bad luck. They had to adjust, and they didn't adjust well. And I think Dan Campbell, if he's the man that everybody thinks he is going to have them whip back into shape. Now this year's going to be very telling because if he doesn't and things still go south as you're predicting, he could be on the hot seat very quickly, as we kind of discussed the KOC situation in our last video.
I
So
think I think any
yeah,
head coach I think any head coach in this division not named Ben Johnson, if they have a rough year, I think there's some questions that are going to be
the door
asked.
could be wide open,
Yep.
so we will end up seeing. But any final thoughts on the NFC North here?
No, I think kind of you summarized it. Anybody told us the division's going to finish in this particular order. I don't think either of us would be surprised. So
And we didn't talk a whole lot about the Vikings here. There's so many unknowns with the Vikings, and it's so exciting because we got a lot of good camp buzz coming out, and we're gonna come out actually with another video
mm,
on some camp buzz here, pretty recently. We're gonna hit up on a couple of the key guys that are playing good. So we want to save a little bit of that
yeah,
fun stuff for those videos. I will say though that I mean, looking at the schedule and looking at just now that we have a quarterback and all the excitement that we have and the hope, there is a lot of very fun
mm,
things that can come from this season, the way that
yeah,
it could potentially play out for us.
yeah. I think you've got that right. I think the important thing to remember about the Vikings, which people seem to have forgotten, is you look at everything that happened with the Vikings last year. Horrible offensive line injuries. Justin Jefferson barely got to 1,000 yards. Terrible quarterback play. If you believe the internet, the worst quarterback play in the entire NFL between the three or four guys that we ran through on
Which
that.
we don't believe that 100%, but that's
But
what's out there.
do you know what happened, John? The Vikings went 9-8. They were a half game out of the playoffs. All of that stuff, all of that terrible, and they had a winning season. They went 3-3 in the division.
And JJ also was 6-4, just to put that out there.
Yeah, we've talked about that, so we shall see. Everything's indicated. I mean, if we had
Mhm.
competent quarterback play, there's no reason the Vikings can't improve on what they did last year.
With
So
that said, I will say go Kyler. We're cheering for you. And since you got the starting job,
absolutely.
you've been doing phenomenal within the training camp. Things have opened up and you're giving the Vikings fans a whole lot more hope than before it was there. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. What's the next division we're going to jump into, Josiah?
All right, let's go to the NFC West, where we have the reigning Super Bowl champions and a pretty solid argument for the toughest division in the NFL. I think it's pretty safe to assume who both of our fourth place teams are going to be. But in the fourth place, I have the Arizona Cardinals. I know, shocker, right? Who could have thought? Third, I have the 49ers and their new official mascot, the substation.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're gonna put that, and make that into actually something that you can have on the field. It might just be like a radioactive bubble thing, or I don't know what it's gonna be. But
I
yeah,
suppose they can also make their mascot just like an ambulance or
why don't it just be
a
like
doctor.
a torn Achilles or something? Yeah, I like that. Both good. You know what? We should make a poll. You guys should vote for that for us,
Yes.
okay?
Why don't they ask us about marketing ideas like that? We've got gold here.
Uh,
Second, in a tough division race once again, I do have the Rams and I have the Seahawks repeating as division
Whoa,
champions.
I am stunned right now because I have the Cardinals in fourth. Okay, easy peasy, no worries there. I have Seattle in third.
You're up for regression. There's not that much regression each year in the NFL.
I have Seattle in third. I have San Francisco in second and LA in first. And again, I will say this. I think that San Francisco is always an extremely solid team. They're an extremely well coached team that even with the injuries that they have, they always seem to perform well. So I think that they're going to always be in a fight for the division. And I do think that Seattle will regress because the Seattle's now unless their defense comes out and just plays lights out like they did last year, because that was a phenomenal defensive season for them. I mean, it was fun to watch. It was truly, and their offense played great. Sam Darnold played phenomenal as well. I mean, he led the league in turnovers, so if he can clean that up, that's awesome. But I do think that there's some regression, and LA to me is the most talented team in the entire NFL. And if Aaron Donald comes back, oh boy. Now he's not there yet, so we don't know. But if Aaron Donald comes back, that is huge. So that's what I have. Again, if somebody were to tell me, hey, one of those three teams could come out on top, I can't argue because I think that all three teams are extremely talented. And again, if Seattle's defense comes out and plays like they did last year, they're going to be a extremely difficult team to beat.
I think the biggest thing for me with the Rams is their two best offensive players have pretty big question marks. Puka has had a lot of offseason stuff this year, and he might be able to just shrug it off and bounce back and be
Hmm.
the player we always know. And that's a
He could be
possibility.
suspended too. You never know.
Exactly. There's a lot of unknown there. And then Matthew Stafford is old. I think he's 39. Is he 40?
Yep. You're
So
not even bringing up Devontae Adams because he's also a question mark when you come to that stuff too. Like
yeah, there's a lot of unknowns with the Rams, but if it all clicks, you're absolutely right. They're probably the most talented team in the NFL.
now, the
But
one
that's a
thing
big
that I
if.
want to, yeah, that's true. One thing I want to hit on here though is that if for whatever reason, if Puka and or Devontae Adams come down, their wide receiver, okay, is a guy named Kanata Mumfield.
I'm
Now,
assuming you have him on a dynasty team.
I do have him on dynasty team,
Yeah.
but not a lot of people know about him. Okay, he's a second year. He's a rookie last year. Anyways, he is third on their wide receiver depth chart. He did not play in or even suit up in the first preseason game. So that is a huge tell. That makes me feel good. And he was creating a lot of buzz last year in mini camp and into the season as well. He actually played at the end of the year and played pretty good. So that's a name, just a sleeper name to potentially keep out on the look for if something were to happen. I hope he does come out and plays phenomenal. But deep league name there in case nobody's heard of him. He's going to be coming out, I think, here within the year.
All right. Well, before we move on to the next division, I need you to justify the 49ers and their 32 healthy players finishing over the Seahawks in the division.
Can I just say one name? Can I say Stribling? Okay. All
Are
right.
we
All
gonna be
right.
serious here? Because I think
Yeah.
that's got hamstring problems too.
He could. Actually, he's been playing phenomenal. He's a rookie. So the only reason that I pick San Francisco over Seattle is again, like I said, even with the injuries, they tend to just play really tough and to be in every single game and to be in contention. And are the injuries going to continue? I don't know. I mean, it seems like it because as of right now, they've got a couple guys that are banged up. George Kittle might even be on track to play week one, which is mind blowing to me. So I don't know how that's going to go. I hope that they don't rush him back, to be completely honest. Um,
I
but
remember an episode where we were talking about the Viking schedule, and you threw some pretty heavy disrespect at Brock Purdy, and now you seem to be walking it back a little bit here.
okay, you just cut me off. And what I was about to say is they are one of the best coached team in the NFL. And I said that before, and I'll say it again. Even with the injuries that they've had over the years, their team, they have their backups ready to go. Okay. And a name that I want everybody to be on the lookout for is their backup running back, Black, out of Indiana. He's a rookie. They
He's
drafted him
good.
in the third round for a reason. And Christian McCaffrey hasn't had a full healthy season in a long time. Now, he did play a lot last year and it was great, but he also was banged up several times throughout the year. Right. And if something happens again with that, he's going to be their RB1. So, again, it's a toss up. I like some controversy there. Seattle is third is big, especially after being the Super Bowl champs. So that's what I'm going with.
All right. Well, we got to keep moving, or we're going to be here all night. So, let's move to the NFC South, the division that seems to consistently put the team with the worst record into the playoffs, and I don't think that's going to change this year either. So
Yeah, they're pretty bad. I don't
this
like this
division was
division
tough.
at all.
I don't really have a lot of. This is another one where any order I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Well, I'm going to tell you what I have then, and I want you to go off of what I got. Okay.
All right, you'll go
So,
first on this one.
fourth place for NFC South, I have Atlanta. Okay. I think we can both agree on that. Carolina is third. Tampa Bay is second, and New Orleans first.
I have the same order.
Well, great. Everybody else who's watching should agree with us. There's not a whole lot to say about the division. A lot of big question marks. Not a lot of good football played last year. So I think we can honestly skip it and move on to the next one.
And just clarify, you had Falcons, Panthers, Bucks, Saints.
Yep, that's right.
Yep. All right. Yep. That seems to be that's the you know as yeah, like you said, there's not a lot to say about that one. So let's move on then to the NFC East. So NFC East, I think that Jaden Daniels, who is getting roasted all over the internet, which is quite amusing to see, um, will be finishing fourth. Giants third, Cowboys second, and the Eagles once again taking the division.
Wow, we are 2 divisions in a row with the perfect, which I'm not surprised.
These are,
So,
yeah,
these are easy ones. No offense to Washington. I do think you're gonna be last, and I think the Giants are gonna come out, and Malik Neighbors is gonna play every single game, at least that's what I hope he does, and ball out. And then Dallas, who's just got a great offense, I think is actually gonna be a pretty darn good team this year. I hope their defense picks up a little bit from last year. I'm not one to root for Dallas, I'll be honest, but Philadelphia is gonna win it. Jalen Hurts is gonna take me to a dynasty championship, hopefully one of these years, and I gotta keep praying for that. So
yeah. I am curious to see what the Giants are this year. You got a lot of pieces that I'm intrigued by, and now with John Harbaugh coaching them, I think there's definitely a lot of intrigue for them, but I still think they're a ways away yet. We will be back in just a few short seconds. Wanted to take this time to thank everyone for listening. Make sure you give us a like, follow, subscribe, and help us grow this channel as we bring you the pulse of Minnesota sports. Now, back to the show. All right, so we have covered the NFC. Now let's turn our attention to the AFC. And let's start with the AFC West.
okay, that's a good one. I like starting with that division because, as I think you alluded to a little bit earlier here, this is one of the other conferences that I could say, or you could argue, to be one of the tougher conferences in the league, or the
Divisions.
toughest. Or, yeah, sorry, division. It's not near as good as the AFC North. I 100% get that, but AFC West. I'm going to tell you what I have, and I want you to tell me what you have. I'm going to start fourth to first, like we've been doing. So fourth place, pretty easy, Las Vegas,
Yep.
right? Okay. No difference there. Third place, Kansas City. I've got KC there. They had an off year last year, and I don't really know how it's going to go from here on out. We don't know if Rice is going to play, get suspended, how that's going to be. We also don't know how Kenneth Walker's going to be, although I do want him to be successful in that role, and I hope that they give him the opportunity to do so. And Patrick Mahomes is coming off the injury, so a lot of question marks. Too many that I think that they can overcome in the time frame that they have this season. Denver's second for me. I know that they made a great run last year and should have been in the Super Bowl barring an injury, but Denver is coming in second, and I am choosing the Chargers to get over the hump and win the division this year and potentially some playoffs. I don't know.
All right. This is an interesting division. A lot of these games will be pretty entertaining. Even the Raiders have some entertaining aspects to them. Um,
I mean, Jalen Naylor?
I'm thinking more along the lines of what are we going to get out of Fernando Mendoza?
Yeah, things have been a little bit shaky in the first couple, you know, preseason games, but that's all right. It's expected. He's a young quarterback. You need to give him some time. So yeah,
I didn't know.
man,
I didn't know we gave young quarterbacks time.
yeah, that's a sore subject. We're not going to get into that. But what do you have for your
Okay,
four here in this
yes,
division?
so four Raiders, three. It's pretty disrespectful to have the Chiefs at third in the division. Um, they got a lot of history over these past few years, and people will probably be upset that you put them third, John. But I also have them third.
Expert rankings right here,
Yeah,
folks.
that's right. That's right. Where we do differ is, while I very much like the Chargers, I'm high on the Chargers. I have been let down one too many times by picking and betting on the Chargers in the past couple of years that I'm going to give the Broncos the benefit of the doubt. I'm going Chargers second and Broncos to take this division. I've always been a Bo Nix fan. He's solid. He gets the job done, and they built a pretty good roster around him and added some more offensive weapons.
That's right. Yeah. Jalen Waddle's there, and I think he could be a very good factor. Bo Nix, I haven't heard a whole lot on his injury, other than he's ready to go for week one, and it hasn't really been, near as much buzz around him as there are other players in the league. So I think that's a pretty, good solid pick there. If you were to tell me each one of those teams would be the ones fighting for it, I wouldn't be surprised. It could be very close, or one of the teams might run away with it because I could see that division. I could see Kansas City and Las Vegas just falling apart, with Kansas City being, I think, pretty darn fragile. being thin at a lot of positions that if injuries happen, I think that it could be just like last year where they just fall apart and really aren't anything to talk about or listen to or watch.
You are most likely correct, and I share that opinion. But also, would you be surprised if we look up after week 18 and the Chiefs have won the division?
I mean, no, but I would also say that that probably has a lot to do then with the Broncos and Chargers like underachieving versus Kansas City overachieving. But it's probably going to be both now. I'm going to put my foot in my mouth here probably because by the time that this does happen, I'm going to look like, somebody who has no idea what's going on. All the Chiefs fans are going to be coming after me and saying, "Hey, remember when you picked third?" Yeah. So before I say too much else, let's move on to the next division. And I want to choose this one. So since we did West, let's do the East side here.
All right,
I'm
all
going to
right.
start again. And bottom two, I think we're both going to have no matter what. There's no question. Now, I have Miami last, and I have New York Jets third. Then I have New England and Buffalo.
All right, and I have the same order.
Okay. So easy
Yeah.
peasy,
Mm-hmm.
easy peasy. We talked about New England in the past. We both think that they had a little bit easier of a schedule to get to where they got. I don't want to take a lot away from what happened because they still made it to the Super Bowl, and that's phenomenal. But I do think that Josh Allen and that team is just a better overall team. Now, I could be proven completely wrong. Josh Allen has he's not proven to be what needs to be done in the playoffs when it gets to crunch time there. And well, Drake May and the Patriots did it in year two. So that's very difficult for me to just come out and say. But I'm going to say Buffalo's going to come out there and hopefully they'll be a contender this year because I would love to see them make it to the Super Bowl. That's one of the teams I'm rooting for in the AFC.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, this division's pretty straightforward. It's split 2-2. It's going to be a two-horse division race. The Bills and the Patriots. I expect it to be a close division race again because I do think the Patriots are still a team on the rise. They definitely benefited from a rather easy schedule last year, but again, another year with Mike Vrabel and Drake May. A lot of things are building positive for them,
I would
despite a
not
little
say
bit
that
of
Vrabel, yeah, Vrabel's not a
off-season
positive.
noise.
Yeah, because Vrabel's been way more negative noise than positive noise. Now I do like Vrabel; he's a great coach, and he's done a lot. But yeah, that's questionable throwing that
I
out
think
there in this
I
in this sense. So
I think he's the type who will buckle down and
yeah,
be
but I mean, you're
motivated.
right. Like they now go from a fourth place schedule to a or not a fourth place schedule, but they now go to a first place schedule because they won the division last year.
Mhm.
And so as we talked about, it was a little bit easier. I think it'll be more difficult, obviously having a first place schedule. So we'll see how they come out and play. And they could completely prove me wrong and everybody else, because I'm not the only person who said this. There's a lot of people who've been doubting them, their strength of schedule, this and that, saying that maybe they didn't quite necessarily deserve that they made it all the way to the Super Bowl. But regardless of if they deserved it or not, they did. And now they have this year to come out and prove it, prove themselves right. And that it wasn't just a fluke situation. So that's two AFC divisions down. Which one do you want to jump into next?
Let's go to the AFC North next.
Okay.
So,
North. All right.
I will kick off with this one. Again, I think that we're both going to have the same fourth place team here with Cleveland, who is still building a good roster, but man, their quarterbacks are just nothing.
The disrespect that you're giving upon Shadur right now is just ridiculous. The fact that you don't have them in first place, I can't even look at you and have this conversation, Josiah.
Oh, Shadur. Yeah, it'll be an interesting year for the Browns, but every year is always interesting for the Browns. Okay, coming in third, which this is this is another one where I wouldn't be really surprised because this division continues to surprise me, but I do have the Steelers coming in third with the
Yeah.
Bengals in second and the Ravens taking this division.
And I know I gave you a lot of grief about Shador and Cleveland, but I have the exact same rankings as you do. Cleveland is 100% last in this division, and it's a three-horse race. Because I'll be honest, I think you could argue Pitt, Cincy, or Baltimore for the division title. And this Pitt is always a solid team that hovers right around 500 no matter what. Even in their bad years, Cincinnati. It depends on if their offense can stay healthy because they might have the best offense in the league. If that's the case, and their defense, if they can take another step forward from last year, because last year was just awful. So you got to hope that they are not near as bad as that. And if they take any sort of step forward, even if they're just a mediocre defense and they're strictly average, you know that they're going to be then a force to be reckoned with. So you got them, but Baltimore is always solid. If Lamar Jackson can get over the hump, get him there. Derrick Henry right in the back of a 32, I think he's 33 or almost 33 or will be this season, year old running back. I mean, hey, he doesn't have many years left, so you got to ride until you can, right?
Yep, new coach in Baltimore now too. We'll see how
Hmm.
that changes things. The Bengals are, yeah, you alluded to it. The Bengals are going to be an interesting case this year. It feels like they've got all the talent on the offensive side of the ball. It just has to click. You know, they feel like they're due for a year where things actually go their way. They've had some pretty rotten luck over the past couple of years, so we shall see. The Bengals, honestly, they are one of the widest ranges of outcomes probably.
Oh,
There's a realistic scenario where they win this division and win it maybe handily, but there's also a scenario we could see where the Bengals actually finish last in this division.
yeah, they could only win 4 or 5 games if an injury strikes here and there because they are the same. They're that thin as well.
Mhm.
So all
Where
right,
we're,
well, last division
yep.
then we got the South here. This is the one that I love the most in the AFC, just because I have the most personal stake in it myself due to my fantasy leagues. But I have Tennessee last. Okay, I think that's pretty straightforward and even. Indianapolis comes in third. Then I have Houston and Jacksonville. And I know that you're not as high in Jacksonville as me, so I'm going to assume that you don't have Jacksonville winning, but I'm hoping that you're there with me.
So I also have the Titans coming in last, the Colts in third, and you're correct. I do have Houston taking the division with the Jaguars coming in second. I think that it boils down to I like the Jacksonville team, but that Houston defense is just so
Mhm.
nasty.
Yeah,
And
they're a
well,
monster.
the Jacksonville is a good team. They're not good enough to overcome that particular unit gap. That's got to be the biggest like unit gap in the division. The Texans defense is so much better than any other unit in that division. I think that will carry them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, their offense is hit or miss. Now, with the recent injury to Jaden Higgins, that's very unfortunate for them. Nico Collins is wide receiver one. Wide receiver two, we don't even know. It's Tank Dell or Jalen Noel or Hutchinson. They still don't know who's going to be wide receiver two now that Higgins is gone. So that's a little bit difficult. And their tight end one is Dalton Schultz. They drafted a tight end, so maybe he comes in and plays well. But to me, I just think that there's too many question marks on the offense that they might not be. And now they don't need the offense to be phenomenal to win, as we've proven right in the past. Their
They
defense,
keep stockpiling Iowa State players, and they
that's true.
seem to
They
do
got a
well
lot of
for
them there.
them.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, they do have a lot of them there. And it's the good Iowa State players we might add,
mhm.
because no offense, there's okay, we're not getting into that. There's not a whole lot of
No,
great Iowa State
David
players there, but
David Montgomery,
mhm.
I think will be a nice addition for. He fits perfectly for what they want to do. They're a defense, retain the ball, beat you up, and David Montgomery fits that to a T. He's a physical ball possession, grind up the other team type of running back.
He's a
So
29-year-old running back though, and that's always difficult to count on to have,
the
especially
yeah.
high number of touches.
The time is now though. It's not like they need him to be
Yeah,
there for 3-4 years. The time is now
yeah,
for the Texans.
yeah. So I'm still going Jacksonville. I got the
Mm-hmm.
Parker Washington, Trevor Lawrence stack in a couple places, and I need that to come out pretty good. Um, I guess now that we've gone through all of the divisions, it looks like four of them, so half, we are identical on. We had a couple differences there. So at the end of the season, we're going to see who knows ball better. There we go. Versus the other way around.
Good thing it's
But
not a grammar contest.
there is a realistic situation where we both know nothing about football that comes through after this season. So we'll be keeping tabs, or Josiah will more than me, because I'm not sure if I'm good enough to remember what we went through here. But anything else you want to hit on with these divisions we got going on?
No, this is just getting me really excited for the NFL season. Not just the Vikings, but the NFL season as a whole. Excited to see. Yeah, we might give you maybe a mid-season update on where these predictions are standing, and if we're feeling good or bad about them, we'll see how the season pans out. We'll visit this again at the end of the year, like John said. We'll see if we knew anything at all. So stay tuned for that. drop some comments. Let us know where you think we went wrong, or if you want to agree with our wonderful and amazingly intelligent takes.
I
But
don't
that's
have anything else to add
yeah.
with this, but hey, I appreciate you guys all listening. This has been the Pulse of Minnesota Sports. You can catch us on Spotify, YouTube. We're coming to Apple Podcasts soon. We're going to be there as well. If you have things that you want to talk to us about, shoot us a message or comment on our posts on Instagram or Facebook, all over the place. We would love to hear and interact with you guys. And if you guys have video ideas, we want to see if it's something that we'd be interested in. All right, you guys have a good rest of your night. See you on the next video.